U.S. President Donald Trump on Saturday launched military strikes against Yemen's Houthis over the group's attacks against Red Sea shipping. A plume of smoke was seen in video rising in Yemen's capital of Sana'a at the scene of a strike. In a post on Truth Social, Trump warned the Houthis, quote, "Your attacks must stop, starting today. If they don't, hell will rain down upon you like nothing you have ever seen before." Trump also warned Iran, the Houthis' main backer, that it needed to immediately halt support to the group. Trump said if Iran threatened the United States, quote, "America will hold you fully accountable and we won't be nice about it." The unfolding U.S. strikes represent the biggest U.S. military operation in the Middle East since Trump took office in January. At least 9 civilians were killed and 9 injured in the strikes on Sana'a, according to the Houthi-run health ministry. Since November 2023, the Houthis have launched more than 100 attacks targeting shipping, killing at least 4 seafarers, sinking 2 vessels, and seizing another. The Houthis say the attacks were in solidarity with Palestinians over Israel's war with Hamas in Gaza. The Biden administration had sought to degrade the Houthis' ability to attack vessels off its coast, but limited the U.S. actions.
Residents gathered at the site of an attack in Yemen on Sunday as bulldozers and volunteers worked to clear debris in search of survivors. The United States launched strikes which the Houthi-run health ministry said killed at least 31 people in what is the biggest U.S. military operation in the Middle East since President Donald Trump took office in January. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said Sunday they would continue until the Iran-aligned Houthis stopped their attacks on Red Sea shipping. He told Fox News, quote, "The minute the Houthis say we'll stop shooting at your ships, we'll stop shooting at your drones, this campaign will end. But until then, it will be unrelenting."
USS Harry Truman.
The Houthis' military spokesperson on Sunday said without offering evidence that the group had targeted U.S. aircraft carrier USS Harry S. Truman and its warships with ballistic missiles and drones in response to the U.S. attacks. The Pentagon did not immediately respond to a request for comment. U.S. Central Command released footage on Saturday showing fighter jets taking off from an undisclosed location and ships firing missiles and hitting targets. The Houthi movement's political bureau described the attacks as a war crime and said its forces were ready to meet escalation with escalation, while Moscow urged Washington to cease the strikes. The Houthis, who have taken control of most of Yemen over the past decade, said last week they would resume attacks on Israeli ships passing through the Red Sea if Israel did not lift a block on aid entering Gaza. They had launched scores of attacks on shipping after Israel's war with Hamas began in late 2023, saying they were acting in solidarity with Gaza. Trump told Iran, the Houthis' main backer, to stop supporting the group immediately. He also threatened to hold Iran accountable. While Iran condemned the U.S. strikes and the commander of its Revolutionary Guard said the Houthis make decisions on their own.
Palestinians in Gaza have weathered a year and a half of war and are used to making do without electricity. But a decision by the Israeli government to cut the supply of electricity, including to a crucial water treatment plant, has sparked fresh warnings of a dire health crisis. Ahmed Al-Rubai manages the water desalination plant in Deir el-Balah. The power cut has forced the plant to turn to fuel generators to keep operating. But fuel must be brought in through crossings, and crossings are controlled by Israel.
With the closure of the crossings and the shortage of fuel supplies, we currently cannot predict how long we can operate on generators. If the closure of crossings continues, the situation threatens to become a catastrophe.
He said daily clean water output has plummeted from 18,000 cubic meters to just 2,000 cubic meters, a drop of 80%. That means civilians may turn to contaminated water. Tariq Shaheen is the director of the Deir el-Balah municipality.
This threatens the spread of intestinal or skin diseases and reduced hygiene among citizens. Therefore, we expect that if the closure continues, God forbid, an environmental and health disaster will occur.
The war was triggered by a Hamas-led cross-border attack on southern Israel in October 2023 that killed 1,200 people and saw 251 taken hostage, according to Israeli tallies. Israel's retaliation has killed more than 48,000 Palestinians, according to Gaza health officials, left most of its people destitute, and razed much of the territory to the ground. Israel's energy minister instructed the state power company to cut sales of electricity to Gaza, which he described as a means of pressuring Hamas to free hostages. The first phase of a ceasefire that expired last week saw the release of some Israeli captives, or their bodies, in exchange for thousands of Palestinians held in Israeli jails. It's unclear whether the sides will proceed to a second phase.
Officials say at least 59 people are dead after a fire tore through an unlicensed nightclub in North Macedonia early Sunday morning. Video from the event verified by Reuters showed a band playing on stage at Pulse nightclub as two flares spat white sparks into the air, some of which set the ceiling ablaze around 3 a.m. Hundreds of people then scrambled for the small venue's only exit as the fire spread, leaving many trapped. Relatives and friends of the victims gathered outside the main hospital in Kochani on Sunday, where some of the more than 150 people injured are being treated. Just hours earlier, Maria Taseva was with her sister at the club when disaster struck. She recounted the events to a Reuters journalist.
The fire broke out. Everyone started screaming and shouting, "Get out, get out!" But unfortunately, there was only one exit, and there were 1,500 people inside. Then everyone started pushing each other, so I headed for the exit. I don't know how, but I ended up on the ground. I couldn't get up, and at that moment, people started stomping on me. I don't know how, but somehow I managed to get out. I'm fine now, but there are many dead. It's terrible.
Authorities say the number of people inside was lower, at 500. Taseva was asked if she lost anyone.
Yes, I did. My sister died. All of them got saved, and she didn't.
Red Cross volunteer Mustafa Saidov described the dire scenes inside the hospital.
What you see here is a sad situation. Inside, where they identify victims, it's far worse. You see that the parents are also quite young, in their 40s. Their children are 18 or 20 years old. As I said, the situation is brutal, chaotic. The stories are also very sad. And unfortunately, many young lives are lost.
Some patients were transferred to neighboring countries, including Bulgaria, for treatment. North Macedonia's interior minister said more than 20 of the injured and 3 of those killed were minors. He added that authorities arrested about 20 people in connection with the fire, including the club manager, members of the band, and government officials. The country's Prime Minister, Christian Mikoski, said investigators had found the club's license had been issued illegally and that they had reason to suspect that, quote, graft and corruption were involved, without providing details. He promised those responsible would face justice and declared 7 days of national mourning.
More than 200 alleged Venezuelan gang members arrived in El Salvador on Sunday after being deported from the U.S., the Salvadoran president said. Video released by the El Salvador government shows them being taken to the Terrorism Confinement Center, a mega prison that can hold up to 40,000 inmates. U.S. President Donald Trump invoked the 1798 Alien Enemies Act on Friday to rapidly deport the alleged members. A day later, a federal judge blocked the application of the law for 14 days, saying the statute refers to, quote, hostile acts perpetrated by another country that are commensurate to war. The Trump administration has appealed the ruling. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's government said it rejected the use of the anachronistic U.S. law to deport alleged gang members, saying it violated migrants' rights. The deported are allegedly part of Tren Aragua, a criminal organization that's been linked to kidnapping, extortion, organized crime, and contract killings.
The International Space Station and Dragon were flying 260 statute miles over the Atlantic Ocean.
Initial capture and the grand arrival when Crew 10 arrives at the space station.
Now again, the station teams here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room to power cycling allows him to have the view from Dragon itself as it moves up towards the docking axis.
Once that happens, they will conduct a series of leak checks. And there on your screen, you just saw NASA astronaut Sunny Williams actually floating.
And Houston, thank you for tuning in this early morning. It was a wonderful day. Great to see our friends arrive. So thank you so much.
Astronauts to enter. And last, commander of Crew 10 and McLean.